Please, don't make her go." The little girl's voice shook as she stood in the doorway. She wasn't wearing shoes. Her small hands trembled at her sides, like she didn't know what to do with them. Tears ran down her face, slow, steady. One of the men dragging her mother didn't even look at her. "Move," he said, flat, cold, like she didn't matter. She didn't move, so he pushed her, hard enough that she fell to the floor. A glass shattered somewhere behind her. Still, no one helped. Not the couple sitting closest, not the man at the bar, not even the waiter just a few steps away, because everyone in that room understood something she didn't. You don't interfere with men like that. "Mama!" Her voice broke as she tried to crawl toward her. Her fingers scraped against the floor as she reached forward. But her mother didn't scream, didn't fight, didn't beg. She just looked back. And there was something in her eyes that made it worse. Not panic, not hope, just acceptance, like she already knew no one was coming. And moments like this, they don't just happen in stories. They happen in real life, too. The kind people see and choose to ignore. The kind no one wants to get involved in. So if stories like this matter to you, the ones where someone finally steps in, consider subscribing, because this one doesn't end the way you think. And then something changed. Outside, cars, more than one. Engines low, steady, then doors closing, one after another. Inside the restaurant, the shift was quiet, almost invisible, but it was there. People felt it, even if they didn't understand it. In the far corner, a man sitting alone stopped what he was doing. He didn't rush, didn't react like everyone else. He simply set his glass down, slowly, carefully, and somehow, that small movement carried across the room. Because when a man like that notices something, it usually means something has already gone wrong. And this time, it was taking her. But the truth is, this story didn't start that night. 6 hours earlier, morning light slipped through the thin curtains of a small apartment in downtown Denver. It didn't warm the room. It just made everything easier to see. The kitchen counter, the stack of unpaid bills, a phone with a cracked screen lying beside them. Megan Sullivan stood there, holding a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. She hadn't taken a sip. She wasn't really looking at it either. She was just standing there, like her body was still, but her thoughts weren't. Behind her, soft footsteps came closer. "Mom?" Megan turned right away, and just like that, her expression changed. The tension faded, replaced by something softer, something she forced to stay there. A small girl stood in the doorway, barefoot, hair a little messy from sleep. Her name was Chloe Sullivan, 7 years old enough to notice when something didn't feel right. "You're up early," Megan said, kneeling in front of her. Chloe nodded. "You didn't sleep," she said. Megan paused for a second, then gave a small smile. "I did," she said quietly. "I just woke up before you." Chloe didn't argue. She just watched her. Because even if she didn't understand what was wrong, she could feel that something was. Chloe sat at the table, slowly eating her cereal. Her eyes followed her mom, every movement, every pause. Megan moved around the apartment, but not in her usual way. She wasn't just starting her day. She kept checking things, the windows, the door, and then the drawer. She walked over to it again, opened it, looked inside, closed it, locked it, then pulled on it slightly, just to be sure. Chloe frowned. "Why do you keep doing that?" she asked. Megan turned. "Doing what?" "The drawer," Chloe said. "You keep checking it." Megan hesitated, then smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I just want to make sure everything's okay. Chloe tilted her head. Is it? The question hung in the air. Megan walked over, knelt in front of her again. Yes, she said softly. But her voice didn't sound completely sure, and Chloe noticed. A car passed outside. Megan's head turned toward the window immediately. Her body went still. Listening. The sound faded. Nothing happened, but the feeling didn't go away, because it wasn't about that car. It was about the one she was waiting for. Chloe watched her closely. You're scared, she said. Megan froze for a moment, then slowly looked back at her. No, she said. But it didn't sound strong. It sounded like something she wanted to believe. It happened just after noon. No loud noise, no warning, just the feeling. A black car pulled up outside. The engine stayed running. Megan saw it, and something inside her settled. Not fear, not surprise, just acceptance. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. Chloe, she said softly. Chloe looked up. Megan walked over, knelt in front of her. This time her hands stayed on Chloe's shoulders, firm, steady. No matter what happens, she said quietly, don't come looking for me. Chloe blinked, confused. What do you mean? Megan swallowed. You stay here, she said. You stay safe. A knock on the door, soft, controlled, final. Chloe flinched. Megan didn't. She stood, walked to the door, and opened it. Two men stood outside, calm, like this was normal. Miss Sullivan, one of them said. Megan nodded. I know. Chloe moved closer, holding onto her shirt. What's happening? She whispered. Megan turned, knelt down one last time. She pulled Chloe into a tight hug, holding her longer than usual. You're brave, she whispered. Don't forget that. Chloe's eyes filled with tears. Edim, Mama. Megan pulled back, held her face gently. I love you. I love you too. Megan stood, turned, and walked out. No struggle, no shouting. She just went, and somehow that made it harder to watch. The door closed. Quietly. Chloe stood there, not moving, waiting, for her mom to come back, for someone to explain. But nothing happened. The room felt empty. Too quiet. Then suddenly, she moved. She ran out the door, down the hallway, out of the building. Her shoes weren't tied, her breathing uneven. Tears blurred everything. People passed her. No one stopped. No one asked if she was okay. She just kept going. And as she ran, a memory came back to her. A voice she had heard once. They say he's dangerous. A pause. But I think he helps people who don't have anyone else. Chloe didn't know who that was, but right now, it was all she had. The restaurant looked calm, warm, like nothing bad could happen there. Chloe pushed the door open, stepping inside, small, alone, crying. People noticed, then quickly looked away. She walked forward slowly, past tables, past people who didn't want to get involved, until she reached the back. A man sat alone, quiet, still, untouched. He hadn't looked at her yet, but somehow, he already knew she was there. Chloe stopped in front of him. Her voice shook. Please. She took a small breath. I think you're the only one they're scared of. Silence. Then, he set his glass down, slowly, and everything changed. He didn't look at her right away. Instead, his eyes shifted slightly toward the entrance, like he already knew what was coming. Then he spoke, calm, steady. Who took her? Chloe's breath caught, because in that moment, she realized something. He believed her, and that meant whatever happened next was going to change everything. Chloe didn't answer right away. Her throat felt tight, like the words were stuck somewhere between her chest and her mouth. The man still hadn't fully looked at her. Not directly, but his attention had shifted. It was on her now. Waiting. "Richard," she whispered, her voice uneven. "Richard Cole." The name didn't sound like much when she said it, but the room reacted. Not loudly, not in a way you could point at. But something changed. A waiter slowed down mid-step. A man at the bar lowered his glass without drinking. Even the silence felt heavier, because that name meant something. Not to Chloe, but to everyone else, and especially to him. The man finally looked at her. Really looked at her this time, calm, focused, like he wasn't just hearing her words, he was reading everything else too. "How long ago?" he asked. Chloe wiped her face quickly with her sleeve. "I don't know," she said. "They took her, and I ran." Her voice cracked again. "I didn't know where else to go." For a moment, he didn't respond. He leaned back slightly in his chair. Not relaxed, just thinking, like he was putting something together in his head. Then, he stood. It wasn't sudden, it wasn't loud, but everyone noticed. The kind of movement that didn't need attention. It just took it. Oh, people didn't gasp, they didn't speak, but you could feel it, because men like him didn't stand up without a reason, and now he had one. Outside, cars had already started lining the street, black, clean, engines running low, nothing messy, nothing rushed. It all looked planned. Inside the restaurant, things began to change quietly. Staff moved faster, but without drawing attention. Tables were cleared. Guests started leaving early. No one made an announcement. No one told them to go, but they understood. Something was coming, and they didn't want to be there when it did. Chloe stood where she was, watching him. She didn't understand everything happening around her, but she could feel it. The way the room had changed, the way people were moving, like she had stepped into something serious, something bigger than her. The man reached into his jacket, pulled out his phone. He didn't check it, he just held it for a second. Then someone stepped up beside him. Quiet, close, like he had been nearby the whole time. "Sir," the man said. The protector didn't turn. "Richard Cole," he said. "Where is he?" There was a short pause. "We're confirming," the man replied. "Confirm faster." The tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. It was the kind of voice that didn't repeat itself. Chloe looked between them. "Are you going to help her?" she asked softly. The man didn't answer right away. He looked down at her, really looked, taking in her face, her tears, the way she was trying to stay steady. "You came here alone," he said. Chloe nodded. "I didn't know where else to go." He watched her for a second longer. "Who told you about me?" She hesitated. "I heard people talking," she said. "They said you're dangerous." A small pause. "But they also said people are scared of you." She swallowed, and I thought, maybe that means you can stop them. No one in the room interrupted. No one would have dared. And in moments like that, when someone small stands in front of something powerful, with nothing but hope, you have to think about it. What would you have done? Would you walk away like everyone else? Or would you stop, even if it meant getting involved in something dangerous? Let me know in the comments. The man took a slow breath. Not tired, just thinking. Then he stepped forward, positioning himself between Chloe and the entrance. It was a small move, but it meant everything, because it was a decision. And everyone in that room understood it. One of the men near the door straightened slightly, watching him more carefully now. "You shouldn't get involved," the man said. His voice was calm, respectful even, but there was something underneath it. "This isn't your concern." The room went quiet again, because that wasn't just a suggestion, it was a warning, the kind most people didn't ignore. The man stood there for a moment, still. Then he spoke. "It is now." 2 simple words, quiet, but they landed hard, and just like that, everything changed. Outside, doors locked, soft clicks, one after another. Inside, no one moved, but something shifted, not just in the room, beyond it. Phones started ringing in different places, messages being sent, people moving. Because news like that didn't stay quiet. He had chosen to step in, and that meant something was about to happen. The man beside him stepped closer. "Sir," he said quietly, "this will escalate." "I know," they'll respond. "I expect them to." A short pause. "He's not small," the man added carefully. The protector finally looked at him, and for a brief moment, there was something there. Not anger, not worry, just certainty. "Neither am I." Chloe stood just behind him now, closer than before, like she knew without being told that this was the safest place to be. "Are they coming here?" she asked. He didn't turn. "Yes." Her hands tightened slightly. "Will they take me too?" That made him pause, just for a second. Then he looked back at her. No. The way he said it, calm, steady, left no room for doubt. And for the first time since everything started, Chloe believed something would be okay. Outside, more cars pulled in, positioned carefully, not blocking anything, just surrounding. Inside, the last few guests slipped out quietly. Staff stepped back, out of sight, because whatever was about to happen, they didn't want to be in the middle of it. One of the men near the entrance stepped forward again, closer this time, more direct. "Last chance," he said. "Return the girl." No one answered, because the answer had already been given. The protector adjusted his jacket slightly, not nervous, not rushed, just ready. Then he spoke. "You took something that wasn't yours." Silence. "And now," he continued, "you're going to fix it." The tension in the room tightened, like everything was being pulled toward a breaking point, because this wasn't a discussion anymore. It wasn't something that could be talked through. This was something else, something final. Outside. A car door opened, slow, deliberate. Someone stepped out, calm, confident, walking toward the entrance, inside. No one spoke, no one moved, because whatever was about to happen next was going to decide everything. The door opened slowly, not kicked in, not forced, just pushed open, like whoever was coming in already expected to walk right through. Everyone looked up, even Chloe. She stood just behind the man, her fingers lightly holding onto the back of his jacket without even realizing it. The man who walked in didn't rush. He didn't need to. He moved like someone who was used to being in control. Like nothing in the room could surprise him. His eyes moved across the restaurant, empty tables, quiet staff. Then they stopped, on the man standing in the middle, still, unshaken. And then, on Chloe. A small smile spread across his face. Not friendly, not kind, just satisfied. "Well," he said casually, "this makes things easier." Chloe froze. Her chest tightened. She knew that voice, even if she had barely heard it before. Something in her just knew. He was one of them. The man stepped further inside. 2 others came in behind him, calm, focused, like they weren't expecting a problem. "You've caused a bit of trouble," he said, still looking at Chloe. "Running off like that?" Chloe shook her head slightly. Her voice broke. She couldn't get the words out. The man in front of her didn't move. But something about him shifted. He was still calm, still quiet, but there was more weight to him now, like the room itself had settled around him. "Did Richard Cole send you?" he asked. The man smiled again, a little wider this time. "Richard doesn't come out for small things," he said. "Not like this." Small. That's what he called it. Chloe felt her stomach twist. The man in front of her tilted his head just slightly, looking at him carefully. "And yet," he said, "you're here." The smile faded just a bit, not gone, but thinner. "Because you're involved," the man replied. "That changes things." A short pause. "Give us the girl," he added, "and we'll leave." The room went quiet again. Thick, uncomfortable. Chloe's hand tightened slightly on the back of the man's jacket. She didn't even notice she was doing it, didn't realize she had already chosen where she felt safest. The man glanced down for just a second, not directly at her hand, but he noticed. Then he looked back up. "No," he said. That was it. No explanation, no hesitation. The air in the room shifted instantly. The two men behind the visitor adjusted slightly, not attacking, but ready, like they were waiting for something to happen. The man let out a slow breath, like he had expected that answer, but still didn't like it. "You don't usually get involved," he said. "That's why things run smoothly." No response. "You stay in your world," he continued. "We stay in ours." He took a step closer. "Crossing that line doesn't end well." Chloe's heart was beating fast now. She could feel it in her chest, in her throat. But the man in front of her didn't move, didn't step back, didn't even blink. Instead, he asked one thing. "Where is her mother?" The man gave a small laugh, shook his head. "That's not your problem." A short pause. "It became my problem the moment you took her." The room went still again. The man's expression hardened. Not a big reaction, just enough. "You're making this bigger than it needs to be," he said. "No," the other man replied. "You already did that." Outside, there was movement, subtle, but constant. Cars adjusting, people taking positions, the kind of quiet activity that meant something serious was building. Inside, the tension kept growing, slowly, like something was being stretched too far. The man stepped closer again. Now there was barely any space between them. "This is your last chance," he said quietly. "Move." Chloe's breath caught. Her fingers tightened again. She didn't want him to move, didn't want to be seen, didn't want to be taken. But the man didn't step back. He stepped forward, just once, placing himself fully between Chloe and the men, blocking her from their view. "You already had your last chance," he said. Something changed in the man's face. Not fear, but understanding. This wasn't going to be settled by talking. For a moment, everything was still. Then, a phone rang. Not inside. Outside somewhere, then another, like signals moving outward. One of the men behind him leaned in, whispered something, too quiet to hear. But it mattered, because the man's face changed again. This time, he looked less sure. He looked back at the man in front of him, studied him. "What did you do?" he asked. No answer. Outside, engines started, not driving away, just running, waiting. Inside, the man finally spoke again. "Richard Cole built something he thinks can't be touched." A pause. Then, "He's wrong." Chloe looked up at him. She didn't understand everything, but she understood enough. This wasn't just about her anymore. Something bigger had already started. The man in front of them took a small step back, just one, but it was enough, because now he wasn't fully in control anymore. "You don't know what you're starting," he said quietly. "I do," came the reply. Another phone buzzed, this time in his hand. He hesitated, then looked at it, and whatever he saw changed everything. The confidence was gone. Just like that, Chloe noticed, even she could tell, something had gone wrong. For them. The man looked up again, tension in his face now. "You should have stayed out of this," he said. The answer came just as calm. "You should have left her alone." Silence, heavy, final. Outside. Sirens started in the distance. Not police, something else. Organized, planned, inside. The man slowly lowered his phone, and for the first time, he wasn't in charge. He was waiting. Because somewhere out there, everything Richard Cole built was starting to fall apart. For a moment, no one moved. Not Chloe, not the men near the door, not even the one who had walked in like he owned the place. Because something had shifted, and everyone felt it. The man looked down at his phone again, like maybe he read it wrong the first time. His jaw tightened. "Pick up," he muttered, calling someone. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. Outside, engines were still running, but now there was more. Movement. Quick. Organized. Not random. Not confused. The kind of movement that meant something serious was happening. Inside, Chloe stayed close behind the man. She didn't say anything, didn't move, but her fingers were still holding onto his jacket, like if she let go, everything would get worse again. The man near the door looked up. This time he wasn't as calm. "What did you do?" he asked. No answer. The man in front of Chloe adjusted his sleeve slightly. Calm, unbothered, like none of this surprised him. "You built everything around control," he said. The other man frowned. "What are you talking about?" "You made people believe no one would step in," he continued, "that no one would touch you." A short pause. "And that made you careless." The man shook his head quickly. "No," he said, "that's not what this is." But his voice didn't sound as sure as before. One of the men behind him leaned in. "We should go," he said quietly. "Now." The first man didn't respond. He just kept staring, trying to understand what was happening. Chloe looked up, her voice small. "Is my mom okay?" The question sat in the air, heavy, real. This time the man turned slightly toward her. Just enough. "She's alive," he said. Chloe's breath caught. "Where is she?" A short pause. "On her way back." Chloe didn't know how that could be true. Not yet. But she believed him anyway. Because everything else he said was already happening. Outside, a car door slammed, then another. Low voices followed, not loud, not messy, just controlled. The man near the door took a small step back. "What is happening out there?" he asked. The man in front of Chloe finally looked straight at him. No emotion, just certainty. "Your world is falling apart," he said. That hit harder than anything else, because deep down, the man knew it could be true. His phone rang again. This time he answered immediately. "What?" he snapped. He listened, and then his face changed, fast. "What do you mean it's gone?" he said. A pause. "All of it?" Chloe watched him. She didn't understand the details, but she understood enough. He was losing. "No," the man said, shaking his head. "Lock it down. Call him." Another pause. Then, he's not answering. His voice dropped, lower, tighter. The call ended slowly, like he didn't want to accept it. The room stayed quiet. No one rushed him, no one spoke, because everything had already changed. "You should leave," the man in front of Chloe said. Not loud, not threatening, just simple. The man looked up. Something in his eyes had changed, Not confidence, not control, something closer to doubt. "You think this ends here?" he asked. A pause. Then, "No," came the answer. It already ended. Outside, more cars pulled up, but these were different. You could tell. Different kind of movement, more precise, more certain. Inside, the men by the door exchanged a look. They understood now, and they didn't like it. "We need to go," one of them said again. This time, there was urgency in his voice. The man hesitated, just for a second, then he stepped back, then again. The confidence he walked in with was gone. He looked at Chloe one last time, then back at the man in front of her. "This isn't over," he said. The reply came without hesitation. "It is for you." And something about that made him stop arguing, because deep down he knew it was true. He turned and walked toward the door. His men followed quickly, faster now, less controlled. The door opened, then closed, and just like that they were gone. But the tension didn't leave with them. It stayed in the room, because this wasn't finished yet. Chloe looked up. "They're gone," she said quietly. The man didn't move. "No," he said, "they're running." A moment passed, then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then put it away. Chloe watched him. "What happens now?" This time he didn't answer right away, because now it wasn't about stopping something, it was about ending it completely. And moments like this, when someone who had no way to fight back is finally safe, they remind us of something important. Courage still exists, and sometimes it only takes one person to step in. If you believe people like Chloe deserve protection, take a second to like this video, because stories like this matter. Outside, sirens were getting closer, louder. The man finally stepped forward. "Stay here," he said. Chloe's hand tightened slightly again. "Are you leaving?" He paused, then looked back at her. "No," he said. "I'm ending it." And this time, there was something in his voice. Not anger, not emotion, just certainty. Chloe slowly let go of his jacket, not because she wasn't scared, but because now she believed him. He walked toward the door, calm, steady, like everything outside was already handled. Chloe stayed where she was, alone now, but not afraid in the same way, because something inside her had changed too. She looked toward the door, listening, waiting, hoping, and outside, everything Richard Cole built was falling apart. Piece by piece for a moment. No one moved. Not Chloe. Not the men near the door. Not even the one who had walked in like he owned the place, because something had shifted, and everyone felt it. The man looked down at his phone again, like maybe he read it wrong the first time. His jaw tightened. "Pick up," he muttered, calling someone. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. Outside. Engines were still running, but now there was more. Movement, quick, organized, not random, not confused. The kind of movement that meant something serious was happening. Inside. Chloe stayed close behind the man. She didn't say anything, didn't move, but her fingers were still holding onto his jacket. Like if she let go, everything would get worse again. The man near the door looked up. This time he wasn't as calm. "What did you do?" he asked. No answer. The man in front of Chloe adjusted his sleeve slightly, calm, unbothered, like none of this surprised him. "You built everything around control," he said. The other man frowned. "What are you talking about?" "You made people believe no one would step in," he continued, "that no one would touch you." A short pause. "And that made you careless." The man shook his head quickly. "No," he said. That's not what this is. But his voice didn't sound as sure as before. One of the men behind him leaned in. "We should go," he said quietly. "Now." The first man didn't respond. He just kept staring, trying to understand what was happening. Chloe looked up, her voice small. "Is my mom okay?" The question sat in the air, heavy, real. This time, the man turned slightly toward her. Just enough. "She's alive," he said. Chloe's breath caught. "Where is she?" A short pause. "On her way back." Chloe didn't know how that could be true, not yet, but she believed him anyway, because everything else he said was already happening. Outside, a car door slammed, then another. Low voices followed, not loud, not messy, just controlled. The man near the door took a small step back. "What is happening out there?" he asked. The man in front of Chloe finally looked straight at him. No emotion, just certainty. "Your world is falling apart," he said. That hit harder than anything else, because deep down, the man knew it could be true. His phone rang again. This time he answered immediately. "What?" he snapped. He listened, and then his face changed, fast. "What do you mean it's gone?" he said. A pause. "All of it?" Chloe watched him. She didn't understand the details, but she understood enough. He was losing. "No," the man said, shaking his head. "Lock it down, call him." Another pause. Then, "He's not answering?" His voice dropped, lower, tighter. The call ended slowly, like he didn't want to accept it. The room stayed quiet. No one rushed him. No one spoke, because everything had already changed. "You should leave," the man in front of Chloe said. Not loud, not threatening, just simple. The man looked up. Something in his eyes had changed. Not confidence, not control, something closer to doubt. "You think this ends here?" he asked. A pause. Then, "No," came the answer. It already ended. Outside, more cars pulled up, but these were different. You could tell. Different kind of movement, more precise, more certain. Inside, the men by the door exchanged a look. They understood now, and they didn't like it. "We need to go," one of them said again. This time there was urgency in his voice. The man hesitated, just for a second. Then he stepped back, then again. The confidence he walked in with was gone. He looked at Chloe one last time, then back at the man in front of her. "This isn't over," he said. The reply came without hesitation. "It is for you." And something about that made him stop arguing. Because deep down, he knew it was true. He turned and walked toward the door. His men followed quickly, faster now, less controlled. The door opened, then closed, and just like that, they were gone. But the tension didn't leave with them. It stayed in the room, because this wasn't finished yet. Chloe looked up. "They're gone," she said quietly. The man didn't move. "No," he said, "they're running." A moment passed. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then put it away. Chloe watched him. "What happens now?" This time, he didn't answer right away, because now it wasn't about stopping something. It was about ending it completely. And moments like this, when someone who had no way to fight back is finally safe, they remind us of something important. Courage still exists, and sometimes it only takes one person to step in. If you believe people like Chloe deserve protection, take a second to like this video, because stories like this matter. Outside, sirens were getting closer, louder. The man finally stepped forward. "Stay here," he said. Chloe's hand tightened slightly again. "Are you leaving?" He paused, then looked back at her. "No," he said. "I'm ending it." And this time, There was something in his voice. Not anger, not emotion, just certainty. Chloe slowly let go of his jacket, not because she wasn't scared, but because now she believed him. He walked toward the door, calm, steady, like everything outside was already handled. Chloe stayed where she was, alone now, but not afraid in the same way, because something inside her had changed too. She looked toward the door, listening, waiting, hoping. And outside, everything Richard Cole built was falling apart, piece by piece, somewhere across the city. A door burst open. A man turned, too late. And in that moment, Richard Cole realized something he had never felt before. He wasn't in control anymore. The warehouse smelled like dust and cold metal. It was quiet, too quiet, the kind of place where people came in and didn't always walk out. A single light hung from the ceiling. It flickered every now and then. Under it, a man sat tied to a chair, his hands bound, face bruised, breathing uneven. Richard Cole. And for once, he didn't look like the man in charge. He looked unsure. Footsteps echoed from somewhere in the dark, slow, steady, getting closer. Cole lifted his head slightly, trying to see, trying to pull himself together. "You had a choice," a voice said, calm, controlled, familiar. Cole swallowed hard. "You don't understand." He started quickly. The footsteps stopped, closer now. "You had a choice," the voice said again. No anger, no shouting, just a final. Cole shook his head. "I didn't know she mattered," he said. "She was just—" He didn't get to finish. "That's why this is happening." The words hit harder than anything else. The man stepped into the light. Not in a dramatic way, not rushed, just there. For the first time, we could see him clearly, not because he wanted attention, but because it didn't matter anymore. Cole blinked, trying to read him, trying to understand how everything slipped away so fast. "You think this changes anything?" Cole said, forcing his voice steady. "You take me out. Someone else takes my place." The man didn't answer right away. He walked slowly around him, calm, measured. "You built everything on fear," he said. "People believed no one would stop you." Cole clenched his jaw. And it worked. A short pause. Until now. Across the city, things were already falling apart. Money frozen. Doors being opened. People walking away from Cole's operations without looking back. Not out of loyalty anymore, but because they knew it was over. Back in the warehouse. Cole let out a dry, tired laugh. "You think this is about one girl?" he said. "No," the man replied. "This is about a line." He stopped in front of him. "You crossed it." Cole's breathing got heavier. "You don't get to decide that." The man looked at him, calm. "I already did." The silence that followed felt heavier than anything said out loud. Cole tried again. This time, there was something closer to desperation. "You don't understand how this works," he said. "There are rules." "You broke them," the man cut in. A short pause. "And you thought no one would do anything about it." Cole looked away, like he was searching for something, anything, something that still gave him control. But there was nothing left. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, Chloe sat near the window. Her feet barely touched the floor. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap, waiting. Every second felt slow. Too slow. Then, the door opened. She looked up quickly and froze. Mom? Her voice cracked. Megan Sullivan stood there, tired, shaken, but standing alive. Chloe didn't think. She just ran, straight into her, holding on tight, like if she let go, She might lose her again. Megan dropped to her knees and held her just as tight. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm right here." Her voice broke. "I'm so sorry." Chloe shook her head against her. "It's okay," she said quietly. "You're here." They stayed like that for a while, not caring who was watching, because nothing else mattered in that moment. Back in the warehouse, Cole looked up again. There was nothing left in his face now. No confidence, no control, just acceptance. "You planned all of this," he said quietly. The man didn't answer. He didn't need to. "You were already moving before the girl even found you," Cole added. A short pause. Then, "Yes." Cole let out a slow breath. "I didn't think you'd break your rule." The man's expression didn't change. "I didn't," he said. A pause. "You made me." That settled it, because it meant everything that happened came back to him. Cole leaned back slightly. There was no fight left in him now, nothing left to say. The man stepped a little closer. "This doesn't happen again," he said. Not loud, not threatening, just certain. Cole gave a small nod, because for the first time, he believed it. The light flickered again, then steadied. Cut to morning. The city looked normal. People walking, cars moving, everything going on like usual, like nothing had changed. But underneath, things were different. Because now, there was a line people knew not to cross. At the restaurant, Chloe sat across from Megan, holding a glass with both hands, still quiet, still taking everything in. Megan reached across the table, gently fixing her hair. "You were really brave," she said softly. Chloe shook her head. "I was just scared." Megan gave a small smile. "Sometimes, that's the same thing." The door opened again. Chloe looked up. The man walked in. Same calm presence, same quiet way about him. He didn't make a scene, didn't try to be noticed. He just walked over. Megan stood up quickly, protective, out of instinct, but not afraid, not like before. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady. "Real." He gave a small nod. Nothing more. Chloe looked up at him. "You said you'd bring her back," she said. He met her eyes. "I did." There was a small pause. Then, "Are they gone?" she asked. He looked at her for a second, then nodded once. "Yes." Chloe let out a breath she didn't even realize she'd been holding. He turned slightly, ready to leave, like he always did. Quietly, without attention. "Wait," Chloe said softly. He stopped. "Just for a second." "Thank you," she said. He didn't answer right away. Then, "You did the hard part," he said. "You came." And with that, he walked away. Chloe watched him go. She wasn't scared anymore, not confused either, just different, like she understood something now she didn't before. Fear makes people stay quiet. It makes them look away. It makes them believe nothing will change. But real power is knowing when to step in, when to stand up, when to say, "This stops here." If you've ever seen a moment where someone needed help and someone chose to step in, share it in the comments. Those moments matter more than people think. And if you believe stories like this should be told, stories about courage, about protection, about doing the right thing, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share. You never know who might need to hear it. Stay safe out there. And may you always find someone who stands up when it matters. This is the Protector's Oath, where fear ends and protection begins.